Hello world, I'm an average Joe and I play games, and today we're going to continue part 2 of our Gaming Mechanics Create Communities, a little philosophy set of videos, rant, call it whatever you will. And if you missed part 1 of the series, click on the annotation that's on your screen now, because my conversation today will be very much based on what I talked about in that video. And from a gameplay perspective, we're on Control, on Firebase, Delphi again. And this is an interesting game for a couple of reasons. First of all, because I am not using my beloved Invective, I'm using a fusion rifle. And as you can see, we are massively outgunned. So I had a hard time trying to carry my team to victory. But it was a fun game, and personally I ended up with a fairly decent score. So hope you guys enjoy. But alright, enough of that. Let's get down into the conversation. So in our last video we talked about how the mechanics of the game that you are playing help shape the community. And I gave a couple of examples. You know, I gave an example of the Call of Duty community and how because the Call of Duty main game mechanic is a competitive multiplayer game, the Call of Duty community tends to be very fractured and very unfriendly and very competitive with itself. Compare that to something like the Minecraft community, where the nature of the game is to be constructive, and so the community tends to be, help each other out, and just a little more nicer, a little more friendlier because of it. Now, Destiny, being a new IP, entirely new game mechanics, entirely new community. You have people like myself that were former Call of Duty players that are now playing Destiny. You have a lot of former Halo players, because Destiny being Bungie's new IP. You have players that were formerly an MMORPG players because of the RPG elements of Destiny. So you have a lot of different, the Destiny player base is drawing from a lot of different genres that are actually quite varied. And so because of that, I've been waiting to see how this player base, community is going to shape up. And I see a lot of positives in the developing Destiny community, but I also see a lot of things that could really concern me, quite frankly. So first, let's talk about the positives. So I see a lot of altruism in the Destiny community, which is a great thing for your community to have. And so the best example that I can think of is on the official Destiny forums and Reddit and a couple of other places. A month or so back when the DLC dropped, there's a lot of discussion around, players that, for some reason couldn't afford it or couldn't buy it or wouldn't buy it. And there was a couple of threads where Destiny players were banding together and actually offering to buy the DLC on behalf of players that had a financial hardship in order to improve the player base, so that more people could get on the DLC, more people could enjoy this game. So that is a great example of the Destiny community really becoming a community that looks out for one another and has that sort of altruistic qualities to it that are really desirable in a community. That's a community that I want to be a part of, and that's a community that I want to contribute to. But you knew there was a but coming. So let's talk about some of the things that really concern me in the developing Destiny community, and we'll spend the majority of our time today talking about my concerns. What I'm concerned with is Destiny is becoming an elitist community. So what do I mean by that? So, elitism is defined by, a fractured society or fractured community where you have the haves and the have-nots. And what I'm basing this on is a lot of the conversation that I see on Reddit, that I see on YouTube, comments and things like that. I spend a lot of my time looking at YouTube comments on both my own videos. You guys know that I reply to almost every comment that you guys give me. And I also spend a lot of time looking at YouTube comments on the major YouTube Destiny personalities, and I'm seeing a lot of comments that really concern me. And I thought about actually going out and finding comments that are examples of what I'm talking about, but I decided not to call people out. But you know, so for example, every week Datto will do a video where he solos the weekly Nightfall Strike. And one of the rules that he's imposed on himself is that he will not use an elemental weapon, an elemental primary weapon, to take advantage of the burn modifier in the weekly Nightfall. And so this makes it harder for him, but also allows him to show that it is possible to solo the Nightfall without using, for example, the Vex Mytho class for the Nightfall this week, which has a burn modifier. And far and away, one of the most popular comments that he'll get on those videos is something to the nature of, everyone's done the raid by now, everyone has elemental weapons, and therefore you should be able to use elemental weapons. Which is an elitist statement. So it assumes a couple of things. Let's break down that particular example. So the first statement, everyone has done the raid. Well, that assumes that obviously everyone has, which is absolutely not the case. So I've seen some statistics quoted, you know, that 10-20% of people have actually done the raid. Personally, I've never done the raid. And what, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. I haven't done either the Vault of Glass or Crota's End, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. And so it assumes that everyone has done the raid. Second, it assumes that everyone has done the raid multiple times, because even if you got perfectly lucky with your drops, you have, with your RNG drops, you have to get all 3 elemental weapons. You can't just run it once and then just get one elemental weapon, because you're not going to have enough weapons to cover all the different burn modifiers. The third thing that it assumes is that you've done the raid on hard mode, because, as I understand it, you need to play it on hard mode to get the raid weapons. So, why is this an issue? Well, what this attitude does is sets up an elitist society where you have the haves and the have-nots, where the haves are the players that have the exotics, that have the raid gear, that are level 32 or 31, whatever the max light level is right now, and they have all the goods. These are the players that complain that, oh no, I got yet another Pocket Infinity from my weekly Nightfall RNG. Oh, this game sucks. This game's broken. Really? Come on now. That is a hashtag first world problems if I ever heard it. If you're complaining about getting multiple copies of the same exotic, you have no right to complain. Because there are a lot of players in this game that are what people would define as casual players. And I don't like to use that language. I don't like to use, hardcore player or casual player. I don't like to use these labels, because those are extremely relative terms. Casual compared to whom? I'll take myself, for example. Compared to everyone that I know, I am a hardcore gamer, because I play between 1 and 2 hours a night. Everyone that I know plays maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. That's just the friends that I hang out with. Those are the people that I know. Whereas compared to the majority of the Destiny player base that has all of the weapons, that has all of the exotics, that has all these things, I am not a hardcore player in the least. A lot of people will call me a casual player. I do not have all the exotics, as you guys know. I do not play the raid because I don't have, now through the channel I have the capability to find players to play with, but I don't have the time to dedicate, 6, 8, 10 hours a week to, play through the raid multiple times on multiple characters to get all the stuff. And so, because of that, some people would consider me a have-not. But I would definitely consider myself a non-casual gamer. I spend a lot of time in, doing video game-related things. And that's really the danger of elitism, is that an elitist person, they presuppose that everyone is like themselves. They presuppose that just because they've had time to do the raid that everyone has, because they've had time to do the raid on hard mode that everyone has, because they've had time to do the raid multiple times to get their lucky RNG drops, to get the elemental weapons, therefore everyone has. And these are dangerous assumptions, because what it does is it removes a person's ability for empathy, because you don't know what other players are going through, both in the game and personally. There's a real-life component to gaming that impacts a player's ability to play an investment game like Destiny. So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of community do we want to create? Do we want to create a community where you can only play this game if you've invested hours upon hours upon hours upon hours to play the raid? What we will end up with is a very, very small player base that is very inbred and only consists of your raid members or players that are like yourself. I think this would be a tremendous detriment to the Destiny community, and I think it would doom the game in the long run. You need fresh blood into a franchise, and that's, quite frankly, a lot of Call of Duty's problem, is that Call of Duty has become such an inbred community where you have to dedicate so much time and be so good at the game in order to compete in multiplayer that new players into the franchise, they get frustrated and give up before they ever really get into the game, before the game's mechanics ever sink their hooks into them and they get addicted. And Destiny cannot become that way. It cannot become this insurmountable feat to go from level 0 or level 1 up to a high enough level that you can play in the really fun endgame content. And that's one of the areas where I think Bungie got it wrong in the Dark Below, is that they took away the low-level, heroic missions. They took away low-level options for the Nightfall and things like that. Instead of just increasing everything by 2 levels, what they should have done was add a new higher level option, because the problem is when you are new to the game and you play through, you're dedicated enough to hit level 20, then what? You have to advance 4 more levels before you can even think about doing a weekly heroic mission, which it shouldn't be that way.
Alpha team.
And I know the gameplay's ended. I'll switch to a different gameplay, just a few little clips here towards the end, because I'm almost at the end of my rant. And so it shouldn't be that way. There should be a scaling level of difficulty, so it doesn't matter what level you're at, you have fun, engaging content to play in this game. Otherwise, the majority of players are going to get burned out and leave the game before they hit the really high level content for the highest level weekly Nightfall strikes and the highest level raid. And that's what you want. You want a farm system that feeds into your high level content, because at any given moment, only about 10 or 20% of your player base is going to be actively playing in the raid. They're actively going to be raiders, and you're going to lose raiders over time just because real life happens. Players get older, maybe they get bored of the game, maybe they leave, maybe they get a new job, maybe they have kids, they start school, whatever it may be. You're going to have raiders that leave, and that's when the game dies out, is if you do not have a farm system where you're actively, players are actively advancing through the ranks, becoming hooked in the game enough to become a raider. And that's what we want long term. So how do we encourage that? How can you, the viewer, today, right now, help create a better Destiny community? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. What I do is I will intentionally play a few times a week. I will play a low-level strike. I'll go back to a level 20 strike, or level 22, whatever the low-level strikes are. And I'll play a couple of strikes through with my level 30 character. And the reason why I do this is because the other players that are playing the strikes, they're playing a level 22 strike because that's all they can play. The rewards for strikes to get better as you go to a higher level. So if you can play a level 26 strike, you're going to play a level 26 strike. You're not going to go back and play a level 22 strike. So because when I join with my level 30 character to that level 22 strike, I can blow through it with my eyes closed. I could solo it if I wanted to. And what I'm able to do is complete that strike much faster than the other level 22 players that I'm in the strike with. And because I'm helping them complete their strike faster, they get more rewards faster, they level up quicker, and they stay in the game longer because they'll be able to advance to harder and harder content. So that's my way of giving back. Another way that you could do it is to go onto Destiny looking for a group, and don't just look for your specific thing that you want, but join others. You know, maybe you've already completed the Nightfall this week. Go help others complete the Nightfall. Maybe you can do the weekly heroic at the highest level, but you see somebody on there that's asking for help doing the weekly heroic on the lowest level. Go and help them out. And that's the sort of things that you can do to help create a better altruistic community to help out those lower players, those lower level players, because remember, you were there once too. It may have been all the way back in September or during the beta when the game first came out, but you were there too, and somebody helped you along the road. So turn around and help them. Alright guys, that is the end of my rant. This is a long video, I apologize for that, but leave a comment down in the comment section below if you agree, disagree. Follow me on Twitter, hit that subscribe button, do whatever it is you guys do, and we'll see you in the next game.